Hey everyone, it's Tom Seymour from VHS Massacre. I don't always do movie reviews, but when I do, they are retro game reviews. So I'm going to be taking a look at a few Evercade cartridges. Obviously, this channel is dedicated more to independent films and things like that. But towards the beginning of this channel, years ago, we would do video game reviews on a short-lived show called Bit Rot. Not the greatest name. All right, I'm going to start with the Commodore 64 2 collection. And so we'll look at a few of these games. I may stop as we talk about them. I like the fact that there are 14 games on this cartridge. That's a lot of games. The other one was very similar. It was a lot of games. The difficult thing with Commodore 64 is that there are thousands of games, so it ends up being the case that it's impossible to please everyone all the time. So I think they've compensated for that by adding, a volume of games, which is helpful. But I remember playing this game, California Games, a lot. I don't know how well it will really held up, and there's a lot of these Olympic Games type of style of games that they put on these cartridges. Some of the shmups, they call them, on Commodore 64, I guess they were popular. I think this is Cybernoid. That's more than a shoot 'em up. It's that one's interesting. It's more like don't touch the side of the walls, and you're kind of maneuvering down corridors and stuff like that. So it is interesting. It's not your standard side-scrolling shoot 'em up, So let's go through. Firelord. So here's the thing. I guess, first of all, let me say I love what Blaze is doing. I love it. They're brilliant because a lot of these licenses are actually affordable now because some of these games are so old. And the fact that you could buy one game system, I have the handheld, and I often hook it up to my computer monitor at night when I want to play on a big screen. They're brilliant because they have they essentially can run almost any system, at least up until PlayStation 1, and I think the new handheld is probably even more powerful than that. Possibly even getting to sort of PlayStation 2 level, I'm not sure. But games like this, Firelord and Cybernoid and a bunch of those other ones, these were came stock with the Commodore 64 Mini that came out, which I have, and I enjoyed to some degree. But in this Volume 2, I started seeing a lot of those games. I was like, oh boy, this is like... It seems like these are the cheaper licenses that they could get and then stock up the Commodore 64 Mini, and then with Blaze, these are titles that they could license easily. And Firelord is a very cool-looking game, and there's something really magical about the black background with the foliage, and I love the way it looks. It just, as a game, when I delved into it, I just really never found my groove with it. So, but I do think it's a cool game. I was looking... Here's the problem when someone just chimes in, well, what games I wanted were blah, blah, blah. But honestly, I wanted, you could have made a Last Ninja collection. I know the problem is, how many people are going to buy that, but I would have loved to see Last Ninja, or just the game Ninja. There's another game just called Ninja, where you go through all these corridors and temples. And then something like Defender of the Crown, or Project Firestart was a really weird looking one. Obviously, the Lucasfilm games they're probably not going to be able to get, like the Maniac Mansion, the Zack McCracken, and stuff like that. So that's understandable. But Archon, I'd love to see Archon. So anyway, keep going. Insects in Space. Never played that. Mission Impossible. Sorry. That one could actually be cool. I don't love the title, and it might be okay. You know, it almost looks like a Marble Madness type of thing. This game, Nebulous, Nebulous. I thought it was called like Tower Topper or something like that. Let's go back. Okay, this version's called Nebulous. It looks cool. There's this rotating effect that actually is very impressive at the time because it looked very three-dimensional. But I remember playing this because it's another pack-in with the Commodore 64 Mini. You know, after 5 or 10 minutes, I was kind of set with it, you know. So, Mission Impossible 2, I actually own this on the NES. Nintendo came out with, I think they just called it Mission Impossible, but it was actually the sequel game. And I played it, and it's okay. And I imagine the Commodore 64 version is okay. I don't know how many people played the second game. I assume it was very popular, but the first one was really the smash hit. So when that came out on the first version, the Evercade Commodore 64 Mini, I was like, okay, this is a good collection. Bruce Lee, or they called it Lee, Impossible Mission, and then Jumpman, although it looks very primitive. So many people grew up with that game, and there's such a playfulness to the level design that, you know, those three games alone made the first collection, you know, really desirable. Mission Impossible 2, it's nice to have that second one. I hear it's harder. You know, I remember it being a little harder, and the first one is hard as hell. So it's like, you know, we'll have to see. Good thing about save states, right? It's like, that's the one thing I'll say, is that Bruce Lee and Impossible Mission, I actually beat on the Evercade for the first time in my life. Impossible Mission, I got to the end with all the puzzle solving. In the resolution's so low, it's like you have 4 colors, and then they can be arranged 4 different directions, and then there's 36 pieces. It sounds easy, but when you're doing it, you're piecing stuff together. You're like, why doesn't this fit? It looks perfect, you know? So that actually, the idea that you would play through that whole game and do that puzzle solving all sort of live within that time frame of like a couple hours or whatever it is absurd. But I was able to do it. Like, I literally stopped playing that game for like a month and come back to it, and then solved all the puzzles and then beat it, you know. So I love Evercade for that reason. World games I remember really loving, but I can't imagine it holds up well. I mean, some of these games I just played as a kid, like the Commodore was an aging computer when I was growing up, but it was what I had. We were in a family. I was the youngest of 3, so I typically got the hand-me-down. So I was excited about the Commodore 64 because I could have it in my room. But that's because the household had a better computer, and my brothers were older and had expensive stuff. But I love the Commodore 64 because it was sort of mine at some point when it was definitely past its prime, but I was more than happy to have it. Pit Stop, I remember playing that with my brothers. That was a lot of fun. Again, I don't know how fun it is now. We'll have to see. I mean, the nostalgic factor will definitely be there for me, so I'm probably going to be fine with it. This looks fun. This just reminds me, though, that I really wish I could play the... I think it was called One-on-One, sort of Fargo. It looks okay. I mean, it does look a lot like there was another game on the first volume of I think it was either Activision or it might have been the C64 collection. It looks almost identical, slightly more colorful. It was another dungeon crawler. So I'm sort of less excited about this. I didn't play this one growing up, I don't believe, so it's okay. I'm sure it could be fun for some. If you grew up with this one, maybe it's like really nostalgic for you. I did enjoy the other one, I have to say. If this was the first version of that dungeon crawler and I didn't play the other one on one of the other releases, I probably would be way more excited about this. So it could be very cool. and I will be happy to try it. Iridium, it always has this cool effect when the ship turns directions. Again, it's a very common game that was released with the Mini, but people like it a lot. It is hard, though. I remember playing it and just not being able to play it for particularly long and getting a little bored by it. Like I guess this one I didn't grow up with, and a lot of this stuff is fueled by nostalgia. Let's be honest. Some of the game mechanics and stuff like that, like we remember playing them and the tricks that we learned, and so. But there's enough of us that love these games where it'll make a difference, This one I'm curious about, Zamzara. I was trying to debate: do I want to buy this collection? Because to me there just wasn't enough that I could connect with. That's not to say that you all out there don't have stuff that you're geeking out about in here that I just didn't experience as a kid. So no, I'm not trying to say anything bad. I think some people probably think this is amazing. The reactions from this collection are actually really good. I watched a few reaction videos and people are like, no, this is awesome. So, I'm not trying to rain on everyone's parade. This one does look pretty fascinating. I think this is why I'm going to buy the cartridge, because of this, Impossible Mission 2, and maybe one other of the games. To have Firelord on a portable device, I think. So then Firelord, Impossible Mission, and Zamzara, I think, make this, for me personally, worth it. Because I couldn't really crack this game, and maybe having it on a handheld with save states is going to let me go through very slowly and beat the game and figure it out. Not that I have to beat a game to enjoy it, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so that is Commodore 64 2 collection. Okay, everyone, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. I'm going to try to do another one of these for the Amiga.